Please come to order. Good morning. Welcome to Commissioners Meeting, St. Mary's County, this date, Tuesday, March 8th, 2022. I am Randy Guy, President of Commissioners of St. Mary's County. Representing the 1st Commissioner District, which includes Bridge, Piney Point, St. George Island, Mr. Eric Colvin.
Good morning.
Mike Hewitt, who represents the 2nd District, which includes Leonardtown, Hollywood, is unable to be here this morning. Sitting to my left, representing the 3rd Commissioner District, which includes Charlotte Hall, 7th District, Golden Beach, and Mechanicsville, Mr. John O'Connor.
Good morning.
Representing the 4th Commissioner District, which includes Lexington Park, some of California, Great Mills, and some of Hollywood, Mr. Todd Morgan. David Weiskopf, our County Administrator, is sitting at the table to my left.
Good morning.
Lisa Cassis, our Communications Director, is sitting at the table to my right.
Good morning.
Amy Carter, our video media producer, is behind the glass. She does a good job. We never see her, but she's back here. Please turn your cell phones off or on vibrate. When you come to the Commissioner's table, please approach by coming down the center aisle. And remember, this meeting is being televised, so you need to speak clearly and directly into the microphone for recording purposes. Remember, you're live and on TV, and you're being recorded, so look good. Next, please stand for the invocation and pledge. Dearly Heavenly Father, we thank you for this wonderful meeting that we're having with our constituents and our commissioners. Please give us guidance. We're going through a critical time right now with our budget process. Please give us the knowledge and the spirit to do the right things for our citizens. Amen. Amen. Please join with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. I need approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Have first, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Ayes have it. Next, we have a wonderful proclamation to give today, Women's History Month proclamation. And I'd like to have Miss Lori Jenny Harris, Cynthia Brown, and Miss Norma Pipkins please come forward. You'd say it right there. COVID, we're getting a little person that COVID is sort of down on us. Now, Ms. Norma Pipkins has been around a long time and been an advocate for women's rights and Women's History Month and everything about women. And I do appreciate all the things you've done, Michael. This proclamation is being, whereas women across, excuse me, am I here now? Okay.
Yeah, I was John.
Keep forgetting this. Whereas women across our great land have helped make our country stronger and better by improving our communities and playing a vital role in achieving justice and equal rights for all our citizens. And whereas women continue to strengthen our nation, our state, our county, and the world at large by excelling as leaders in all walks of life, including business, law, politics, family life, education, community service, science, medicine, and the arts. And whereas the brave women who wear the uniform of the United States Armed Forces are helping to lay the foundation of peace and freedom for generations to come. And whereas the purpose of women's history is not to idolize women, but to collect and share stories of women's achievements that present an expanded view of the complexity of living a full and purposeful life. And whereas the 2022 Women's History Month theme is providing healing, promoting hope, reflecting the hard work and dedication of women in our community to improving the quality of life for all. Now, therefore, we, the Commissioner of St. Mary's County, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2022 Women's History Month. We call upon our citizens of St. Mary's County to observe this month through appropriate ceremonies and activities, and to remember throughout the year the many contributions made by women in this country, in this county, in the state of Maryland, and the United States. This date, March 8th, 2022. We're going to give it to Ms. Norma.
Well, thank you for having us here this morning, Commissioners. Today is International Women's Day. And so today, more than ever, we are happy for the safety of our community and for our opportunity to participate in government. We are asking that all women stand with the women of Ukraine who are fighting for the safety of their families and their own freedom. Here in St. Mary's County, we are blessed to have many, many women volunteers. And this month, we are celebrating women's history, and Jasmine Saunders is the chairperson of that event. So I'd like for Jasmine to tell you all about what she has planned.
Thank you, Norma. Thank you all for having us here today. In reading the Women's History Proclamation, like Norma said, my name is Jasmine Saunders, and I am a member of the St. Mary's County Commission for Women. I also happen to be the chair, as she mentioned, of this year's Women's History Symposium. This event serves to celebrate the amazing women and young women of St. Mary's County for their tireless service to our community. We will be celebrating Miss Barbara Ives as our Ruth Bader Ginsburg Lifetime Achievement Award winner. St. Mary's County Health Department, Dr. Brewster, will be honored this year as our very first hometown shero. And we will have a very special keynote speaker, Southern Maryland Center for Family Advocacy's very own Laura Joyce, as she speaks to this year's theme of women providing healing and promoting hope. Our event this year will be hybrid, so for those of you that cannot join us, feel free to watch it. It'll be streamed from the county Facebook page, or the county page. And I really encourage you all to come out and join us. It's March 24th at 6 p.m. If you can't be there in person, like I said, you can watch the event as it's streamed, and we're going to celebrate the women and young women of St. Mary's County. Thank you.
Just wanted to thank the commissioners for recognizing the contributions of women, and as well the hard work of Norma Pipkin, Jasmine Saunders, and all the members of the Commission for Women. Their contributions as well are enormous, and we just want to thank them.
Thank you. And my eyes been opened up the last 7.5 years with the women's contribution, especially through RSVP, as I went through all of their luncheons every year and saw the number of women that were at the lunch who gave so much of their time. And I thank all of you out there, and especially all the women out there that take their time to volunteer to help the community, because without that, it would be very difficult. St. Mary's County is blessed with all the volunteers we have. We've had a little problem this past COVID time. It suppressed a lot of it. I'm hoping we'll get back more to normal. That's what we're doing right now. We're finally coming in front of his eyes and recognizing people side by side. We haven't done this for almost 2 years now. And as this volunteer gets back into full swing again, I know it was always a big thing that the RSVP kept track of all the people, and they reached over $1 million worth of volunteers 2 years ago. And they were so happy about that, which I was too. I was very impressed. So I thank you very much, Norma, for all you put in for it, and for our human services and people out here right now, led by Lori, for everything we do for our volunteerism and for our elder people out there too. So thank you very much. Okay, anything else you want to say?
No, just hope to see all of you on March 24th. If you can't come, please view it online so you can help us appreciate some of the amazing volunteers here in St. Mary's.
And that's a big event. I think they got, how many did you have nominees? 14, 13?
Yeah, we have 14 total.
14 total, and all the nominees, I mean, it's just an honor to be nominated. And then, unfortunately, we got to pick one. That's the actual winner. so it's tough. And but to be nominated, the nominees themselves should be proud of the idea that they were nominated. And we thank you very much for all you do that. Thank you.
All right.
Until all the 24th, we'll be here to show you. Okay, next we go into the main agenda here. We have a Department of Land Use and Growth Management request for public hearing, proposed amendment to the 2010 Comprehensive Plan land use map to change land use from rural preservation to rural commercial, and to change the zoning map from rural preservation to rural commercial limited zoning district for property located at 41170 Oakville Road, Mechanicsville. And our Director of LUGM, Mr. Bill Hunt, is up. You got it.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Commissioners. I'm appearing to request a public hearing for an amendment to the comprehensive plan land use map to change the map category from rural preservation to rural commerce and to change the zoning map from rural preservation district to rural commercial limited zoning district for property located at 41170 Oakville in Mechanicsville. The owner feels that the changes are justified as a mistake during the last comprehensive zoning, which took place in 2010, because the existing commercial uses on the property were overlooked. Greenhouses, planting beds, and other improvements were part of the business that were missed at that time. The Planning Commission public hearing was held on February 14, 2022. The owners and attorney Chris Longmore were the only people to speak at the public hearing. The Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. The land use change was sent to the Maryland Department of Planning for review. MDP commented that the property is not in a priority funding area, which is true, but MDP overlooked the fact that the rural commerce area itself is defined as established areas for commercial activity that is not in a growth area that predate the comprehensive plan, where continued commercial activity will not alter the historic character of the area. MDP also commented that there should be adequate public facilities, which has been verified. There is an existing use on the property, and if they chose to expand, APF would be reviewed through the TEC agencies. I have a PowerPoint for this if you would like to see it.
Please.
Thank you.
Do you want to see it? Okay.
Next one. As stated, this is the area, this is the address of the property that we're looking at. The existing land use is rural preservation, and the zoning is rural preservation district. Next. The request is to change the comprehensive plan from rural preservation to rural commerce. Next. And the zoning that would go along with that from RPD to rural commercial limited zoning. Next, here's the location map that you can see from the aerial. The property is developed with a landscaping greenhouse business currently, and was that way before 2010 when the last comprehensive plan was done. Next. This is the land use rural preservation, has already been discussed. Next. And rural preservation district is the zoning. Next.
Can you go back that slide? You're moving a little fast. I'm trying to place where this is. I'm just off the top of my head.
It's where you see Oakville coming in from the southeast that hits 235.
Oh, okay, so that's big doors.
Loveville Road, you go past that, and then there used to be a junkyard, then Ridgewood Oil Company.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to see. So it's that.
Presently, it's Wentworth has their.
Correct.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It's
Yeah,
part of
that's-
the Wentworth operation at this
Yeah,
point.
okay, because I was, so if going southbound, it's on the left side. So now I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I was going
No, you're fine.
a little rapidly. Okay. Next one then. Rural service centers in the comprehensive plan. You see there are numerous rural service centers that have been designated, including one at Oakville. Traditionally, these areas provided services for the surrounding rural and agricultural area, and they are intended to offer limited infill, provided that it's compatible with what is existing. Next. Rural commercial limited in the comprehensive plan specifically are areas of commercial use that were RPD at the time of the 22 comp plan, which this was, and you are allowed to continue the commercial uses, and you can add some commercial development on vacant properties where it will be satisfactory or compatible with the neighborhood where they're going. Next. As far as the zoning goes, the rural commercial limited zoning district is defined as being for existing small-scale commercial uses serving localized markets that are scattered along the highway or clustered at intersections, where compatible continued operation and reasonable expansion is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and RCL allow for the continuance and limited expansion of such places. Next. The neighborhood is described as Oakville along MD 235 south of Mechanicsville, and it's at the intersection of Oakville and 235 as we've just discussed. Next. The area, of course, includes a major transportation corridor because it's on 235. There are numerous existing businesses nearby. As mentioned by President Guy, we have Buckler's Auto Parts and the Ridgewood Oil business is also there. Oakville Elementary School is nearby. Next. The applicant is seeking comprehensive plan, land use map, and zoning amendments based on a mistake, given that this was existing before the 2010 property. And in addition, it's on 235. Next. It's improved with commercial uses, as you can see from the aerial, including greenhouses, planting beds, and other items in the business that support the business that's already located there. Adjacent and nearby properties are also improved and have the land use and zoning requested by the applicant, which I'll start showing in the next slide. Thank you. X marks the spot. And then, because it's a little light in this slide, I drew red arrows to show where there's other examples of rural commerce land use nearby. The zoning lines don't match exactly on this view from the county's GIS. Next. And then you can see that there is RCL zoning in proximity and abutting the subject property. Next. The existing commercial uses on the subject property were overlooked during the last comprehensive rezoning. Thus, that is the mistake in zoning the applicant seeks to correct. The rezoning will allow existing uses to continue and new similar uses to be added if the commissioners approve what's being requested. And then that concludes my PowerPoint.
Any questions, commissioners?
No. Yeah, I have a few.
Sure.
Just on this particular parcel, it's obvious that the catalyst for this is the consolidation of Wentworth Nursery on the southbound side in the north end, so thereby wanting to, basically consolidate it down, bring it into this location.
But they've been there for a long time.
No, I know they've been there for a long time.
For a long time.
Yeah, but that's not the point I'm making. It's that this had never come up before because they weren't trying to expand on this property, the consolidation of it. Were all of these greenhouses and other facilities permitted prior to 2010?
I don't know the answer to each and every one.
I need to know if all of the extra facilities were properly permitted through the county prior to 2010.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because if they're claiming it's a mistake and they weren't permitted prior, then I think that's something we need to look at. I don't see a problem with it. I just want to make sure that we're being fair, considering that there's been several requests similar to this as such. Okay, thank you.
Certainly. I'll bring that forward. If you vote today to have the public hearing, I'll present that in my report prior to the public hearing.
Thank you.
Okay. Prior to public hearing. Appreciate that, yeah.
Mr. President, I move to authorize the Department of Land Use and Growth Management to schedule a morning public hearing on March 29, 2022, to receive public comment on a proposed amendment to the 2010 Comprehensive Plan Land Use Map to change the land use from rural preservation to rural commerce, and to change the zoning map from rural preservation to rural commerce limited zoning district for the property located at 41170 Oakville Road, Mechanicsville.
Second.
Have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next we go right into county administrator time.
Thank you, Commissioner President Guy. We'll start off with the draft agendas for March 15th and March 22nd. On Tuesday, March 15th, you'll meet at the normal time of 9 a.m. with the invocation and pledge by Commissioner Colvin. Then we'll have two proclamations, one for Social Work Month and one for Equal Pay Day. And then the Department of Finance decision for the supplemental appropriation ordinance. And then Office of the County Attorney for the decision on the Police Accountability Board. And then County Administrator time. And then Office of the County Attorney with legislative updates, followed by Commissioner time, adjourn, and then at 1:30 you'll have budget work session. And then Tuesday, March 22nd, you'll start at the normal time, invocation and pledge by Commissioner Hewitt, followed by a proclamation for National Agricultural Day. Then County Administrator time, Commissioner's time, closed session for personnel, adjourn, followed by another 1:30 budget work session. And going right into the County Administrator time, the first on the agenda is Department of Human Resources with the LoSAP 2021 benefit certification. Our HR Director, Ms. Catherine Pratson, presenting.
Thank you, and good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Weiskopf, you moved on pretty snappy there. Real quick, on that agenda,
Certainly.
is the county law team going to have enough time to put together all those changes and the requests that were there to make a decision?
For the PAB?
Yeah.
Well, what we will do is we would bring forward to the commissioners all the comments from the public hearing, but the law office is unaware of which, direction the commissioners, 3 of you would want us to go in. So we're just presenting it back to you, and then obviously what can happen is if the commissioners have direction that, we want to increase the number of the board, or we want to do this, or we want to, insert this, then we can obviously take direction and come back the following week.
Okay, so it's not necessarily a decision on the ordinance that was presented, it's a discussion on
you have
multiple
no
factors, or if there's
Certainly.
no objections?
Certainly.
Okay,
If you
perfect.
have no changes, it can be adopted as is. If you have changes, we can certainly go back to the
Gotcha.
laboratory.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. And you may recall annually, in accordance with the St. Mary's County Code, the Board of Directors of each volunteer fire department, rescue squad, and ALS unit certify a list of volunteers who have qualified for credit from the previous year. The LoSAP Executive Committee of the St. Mary's County Fire Board and Rescue Squad Association in turn reviews and certifies each list. And at the end of the process, approval of each certified eligibility list is requested from the commissioners. And that is what is being presented to you today. Also, for calendar year 2021, the commissioners approved providing 4 points each month that volunteers were able to demonstrate a reasonable restriction on participation during the pandemic. And that was allowed through the end of the state of emergency of July 1, 2021. And it is my understanding that 2 volunteers took advantage of that opportunity.
Only 2? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So the commissioners are requested to approve the list as presented.
I move to approve and certify the individuals qualifying for the 2021 Length of Service Awards, LoSAP Service Credit, and authorize Commissioner President to sign the related documents.
Second.
Can I have a first and second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any disapproval? Ayes have it.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bradson. Next on the agenda is from the Department of Public Works and Transportation with Director Jim Gotch and Allison Swint for the intergovernmental agreement FY 2023 between the Maryland State Department of Social Services and the Commissioners of St. Mary's County for Job Access Reverse Commute, otherwise known as JARC 1 and 2 and 3.
Mr. Gotch, we welcome you the first time to the dais.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting
welcome.
eased in with only 4 commissioners here this morning. Makes it easier.
Okay, well, thank you. We're here for, again, the 2023, it's an intergovernmental agreement between Maryland State Department of Social Services and the commissioners for the Job Access Reverse Commute. It's JARC 1, 2, and 3. And what we're asking for is we're recommending approval of the intergovernmental agreement between the state and the commissioners for the Job Access Reverse Commute 1, 2, and 3, and asking to authorize the Commissioner President to sign the related documents. So this is a annual agreement since 2015 between the state and us, and it extends, what it does is provides extended hours for the bus service for Department of Social Services. And the 3 different pieces are split into the 3 different into different regions. So JARC 1 extends the hours of services in California, Great Mills, and Lexington Park on Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., and then again on Saturday, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. JARC 2 is a similar extension of hours. It's for Charlotte Hall, Mechanicsville, Loveville, Leonardtown, and Hollywood, again, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., weekdays and Saturdays, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then JARC 3 is a Sunday service from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., and it's Lexington Park, California, and Great Mills. And this is a yearly agreement that we make with them. So there's 3 different agreements for JARC 1, JARC 2, and JARC 3. And if you have any questions or more description, I'll give it to Allison Swint. who's
So we're
the subject.
extending our time now. What was it before this?
This has been ongoing.
This has been ongoing for several years. Prior to this, I believe we ended bus services at 6 p.m., so
6
this
p.m.
extends
So
it.
now extend it all to 9 everywhere, which is good. We need to
Correct.
do that. That's very good. I do have one complaint, though.
Uh-oh.
Some elders, of course, they call me up. I suppose I'm the elder here.
Sure.
But anyway, they were talking prior to COVID, they were paying $1 for a bus trip. Now they're paying $6. Is that correct?
It would depend. It sounds like they fall under the STAP, and we're taking this bill before the House Committee.
Two of the ladies are up there in the Charlotte Hall, Mechanicsville area.
Correct. So STAP is the State Specialized Area Transportation Plan. It is for, the zones are marked throughout the entire county. The transportation is provided between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. during the day associated
So
with
10
that
a.m. to
zone.
1 p.m. is the higher cost transportation time?
No, that is the only transportation time for STAP.
Oh.
STAP transports anyone outside of the 3/4 mile off the fixed route. And that was always
Sounds
supposed to be in
complicated to me
place.
here.
But unfortunately, in prior years, it was not being done correctly. So we've had conversations with specifically the senior centers.
Yeah.
Brought MTA in to have those conversations as well to make sure that everybody understands what happened, what was supposed to happen, and where we're now following federal regulations.
Okay, is there any way you can look at possibly giving these seniors a discount?
The seniors do receive a discount, but that's only on the fixed route. So on the fixed route, they would ride for 50 cents each way. But on STAP, we cannot go below the $3 per trip.
Because the girl, the one lady complaining, she just rides the bus up there to get lunch. And she can't afford that because $6 is more than our lunch. And
I understand.
anyway, well, okay. So there's nothing you can do about that, huh?
Not at
She's
this
stuck
time.
with paying that $6.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, Commissioner, anything else on this?
I move to approve the FY 2023 intergovernmental agreement between Maryland State Department of Social Services and the Commissioners of St. Mary's County for Job Access Reverse Commute JARC 1, 2, and 3, and authorize the Commissioner President to sign all related documents.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you all very much. And welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, he's not going anywhere. He's next with the Deerhorn Neck Road speed limit ordinance with Mr. Gary Whipple as well.
Whipple?
Morning.
Okay, so this one, again, we're recommending approval for you guys to adopt an ordinance that we're proposing establishing a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit for Deerhorn Neck Road as presented by staff and the Department of Public Works and Transportation, and for us to install traffic control devices for enforcement. This road is one of the legacy roads we inherited from State Highway a long time ago, and we have no ordinance setting a speed limit for this road. So this is, our package says the only road, but it's actually, I think, one of two roads that has a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit that's county-owned. All the other county-owned roads are 40 miles an hour or less. And so we're asking to set an ordinance on the speed limit of this road. And what drives this is there's been, at the intersection up with Sotterley Road, there's been, talking to the resident who lives across the street at the T intersection, 10 accidents in the last 5-6 years. They've replaced their mailbox 3 times. They've replaced a fence 3 times. The cars are not stopping at the stop sign, just drive right across the street, right across Sotterley and down into the ditch. And so somebody knocked over a Smecco pole and it had to be replaced. Over the years, we've also had complaints or requests from residents who live on Ingleside, just a little bit further down, that are asking to reduce the speed limit because it's hard to get out of their subdivision at 50 miles an hour. And same thing with Greenwell State Park. We just installed a crosswalk for the path at Greenwell State Park, and so we're requesting to change the speed limit. And again, when we're done, we have a T intersection sign marked for, T intersection ahead. We have a stop sign ahead sign, and then State Highway has replaced the barricade where you get to the end of a road and you've got the signs that warn you that you're at the end of the road. They've replaced that on Solderly. So anyhow, that's our request.
So did we conduct a study on this road to show what the 85th percentile speed was, and in order to determine the 40-mile-per-hour speed?
I'd have to check that. I believe that was done, but it's not in the package, so.
Okay.
Well, let me, you will learn I'm a traffic advocate.
That's where I'm
So Mr. Whip will get to address the questions.
Right.
So Steerhorn Neck, your traffic enforcement mechanism is going to put up a speed limit sign, right? Okay, so anybody drives out there knows that the average speed bar on that is barely, if it's 50, that's going slow. So we're going to put a sign up that says go slow. We know that there's very little, if any, in traffic enforcement in St. Mary's County. So I have no objection to trying to do something out there by putting up a new speed limit sign, but if there's no enforcement, it's moot. And it goes throughout the county as I complain about traffic enforcement. We can put up all the speed limit signs we want, but there's no enforcement. So I'm all for the speed limit sign, but let's recognize the other side of the coin, which is the traffic enforcement is a sign that's going to be ignored. And the average speed limit, I would sit there and say, for the folks who live out that way, is probably 55 to 60 going down that road on any given day. And I realize the problems that Greenwell has and a few of the neighbors have off the right side there before you get to Half Pone. Is it Half Pone Point out that way?
Yeah.
Half Pone Point, and then the subdivision at the very, very end out there on the river. That's my 2 cents worth.
Well,
Public Works has a camera where we do our studies for speed studies. And then if something is out of line like that, we send the information over to the Sheriff's Department.
I realize it can go over there, and I know also when it gets there where it goes.
we know where it dies when it goes over there. And I have to agree with Commissioner Morgan on this one. From a traffic perspective, you can put up all the signs in the world, but if you're not going to have, the enforcement mechanism that's behind it, really lower speed limits like this they actually cause more defiance of the actual speed limit. So it becomes an unrealistic speed limit. And that's why I asked what was the 85th percentile speed, the roadway design, because it may be that there needs to be other roadway design improvements that have to happen with this, other types of devices, versus just putting a sign up that says, we want you to go 40, but we all know that you're doing 60 anyway. So it's just not logical to do it this way. I'd like to see some other preventative measures taken.
I don't think we can do that. I mean, if you go down Steerhorn Neck, it's farm on the left, farm on the right, besides the entrance of Greenwell State Park and the 2 little entrances on the right-hand side before you get to Half Pone Point.
So the reason 40 was recommended is that that's the posted speed limit on Solderly. So it'd make it consistent with Solderly. But to your point, our department is limited in making recommendations on traffic enforcement, which is, that's what we can do. We can make the recommendation and whether it's followed or not.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of accidents at the T intersection there. Do we use rumble strips anywhere on county roads? Can we put some rumble strips before the intersection to warn people to slow down? Is that something we can do?
When rumble strips go in, they usually get complaints from the residents because you can hear them. And so they're not long lasting as far as they get installed and the residents complain there's too much noise all hours of the day or night, and they usually end up getting removed.
Well, here's the thing is a sign isn't going to stop the problem, but traffic engineering can help curb the problem. Engineering and enforcement, we both know, is two separate things. Nobody sitting here can control the lack of enforcement on traffic laws. So we have to go ahead and look at it from a different perspective. The citizens that are there are complaining about people speeding. We have traffic accidents at the T intersection. Then, maybe we do need to put rumble strips in and see how effective they are. There needs to be a different approach. I just don't agree with putting up a lower speed limit sign. And Now, if the justification is just, we want to make it consistent, but we're going to accept the fact that nothing's going to change, I get with that. I'm good. But there needs to be some follow-through on this, I guess. And if that's what you're sitting here saying, is that 40 miles per hour is for consistency alone, we're going to follow up and try and do some traffic engineering to stop the actual problems, okay, I'm good with that.
I think another problem too, at the end of, when you come to Steerhorn Neck Road to that intersection stop, it is very difficult to see anything coming to the left because the road goes down a
But
big
there's a dip there.
Yeah.
So I don't, and I travel a lot 'cause I got a brother who lives down on Steerhorn Neck Road, and I just came out of there the other afternoon. But anyway, Sunday afternoon. But the thing of it is, getting to that.
That's where you're going.
We stop. I'm creeping out to try to make the turn because I can't really see any traffic coming to my left.
Notice how he flew by that question.
And I think the thing you need to do is, I don't know if I see these mirror things sometimes put up. That probably helped me, at least for me it would, that I could see something coming up that hill. I don't know if that's a possibility or not, but that would be, to me, would be a big help because I find myself stopping there and creeping out slowly, keep looking down that hill. Because it's very difficult to come out there. I will admit that. And I don't know, I can't imagine anybody going through the intersection at a high speed. I don't know how you can make it, because you can't, got to be to 2 90-degree turns there that you got to make, or unless you go straight across the road and run into the woods. So it's something, I don't know if the mirror thing is something we can look at, or that's a difficulty I find. I talked to my brother about it, and he's felt the same way about it. He's constantly, he lived down there a long time, but he's creeping up there trying to look down over that hill to see if anybody's coming, because it's very difficult. That's my recommendation.
Money's worth out of this discussion, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, that just suggests stuff. Somebody who's been down that road numerous times, and then someone who lives down, that's just complaints that I have out of that same thing there. Okay.
All right, well, I move to adopt the ordinance establishing a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit for Steerhorn Neck Road as presented by staff, and direct the Department of Public Works and Transportation to install the appropriate traffic control devices for enforcement.
Second, a discussion with an amendment. I'd like to give you a friendly amendment that says, and the Department of Public Works and Transportation will conduct a traffic engineering study in order to facilitate the
use of other devices?
Use of other devices and improvement of the roadway.
I'm good with that.
That's good.
Thank you.
Second on that one.
Okay, you second that? Okay. We get that? Okay.
Yes,
good.
sir.
Great. Okay, got a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Ayes have it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is Department of Public Works and Transportation regarding the Southwoods Estates subdivision no parking ordinance.
You got all the fun ones today, didn't you?
Well, you got blasted your first day here.
The good thing is I know what's going on. Okay, so this has been before you guys before. And when it came before, well, what we're asking you to do is rescind the ordinance 2021-39 that prohibited or restricted the on-street parking and the Southwoods Estate side streets, and authorized Department of Public Works and Transportation to go and remove those signs. So the no parking resolution, when it came before you previously, there were statements made that the roads were too narrow and it was not safe to park cars on the streets and then be able to get emergency vehicles or work trucks or other people to their houses. And so when the ordinance was passed to put up no parking signs, our department and the highway crews went out, and when they were installing the signs, they actually went and measured the streets. And so all the streets that are in the subdivision are built to today's current road standards. And that allows parking on one side. We have some exhibits that I don't know if you can see. Can you go to the
Next slide. Yes, sir.
Yes. So what the ordinance allows is parking on either side of the street, but it's got to be staggered because the most narrow roads are 18-foot wide, a cul-de-sac or a place. And for an 18-foot roadway, the ordinance says we've got to leave 8 feet for parking, if you're going to allow parking, which leaves a 10-foot roadway for cars or emergency.
So that the residents have to leave a 10-foot right-of-way to get through there?
Yes.
Correct, okay.
So a snowplow could get through, an emergency vehicle, any work construction truck can get in the cul-de-sac. So this is a picture of the way that the parking is supposed to work. You've got people on both sides of the roadway, but there's plenty of room to get around the cars. And I think what was driving this is there was parking on both sides of the street opposite each other. So if you have an 18-foot road and you have cars on one side, even though the ordinance says it's 8 feet, cars aren't usually 8 feet wide, but you've got cars on one side, you got cars on the other side, so it leaves just this little narrow strip between. And then Public Works can't get, if it snows, we can't get a snowplow in. If there's an emergency services can't get in if cars are parked opposite each other. So the ordinance says, where parallel on-street parking is proposed, a minimum parking lane of 8 feet shall be provided on one or both sides. And then specifically under the cul-de-sacs and local roads, which are the 18-foot roadways, it says off-street, parking on one side and staggered parking on alternate sides is allowed. So what we've done is, on the previous ordinance, we came in and basically prohibited what is allowed by ordinance. And I think it was just because of problems on one street and people parking opposite each other.
So you're right. This started off as one particular street, and then it somehow escalated to include the entire neighborhood, and it should not have. This correction today does maintain the no parking on Baywoods, the main road going in. Is that correct?
That is correct,
Okay.
right. There was a resolution in 2019 that prohibited parking there.
Yeah, and I agree with Commissioner Colvin. However, what I will say is that this started as one particular street, and the reason it was for the whole subdivision is because it was only one street, and if we were going to do parking enforcement in an entire subdivision, it should have been unilaterally across the board. You know, you couldn't just have one street, and because I brought that up. You know, you can't just have just one street, and they're all the same size, all these streets that are in there. So either way, you know, we move forward with it based on what I'm gonna go very staunchly and say some inaccurate, misleading, and false information to our staff at Department of Public Works. So I was none too happy when the full amount of information came forward. You know, because I know you guys operate in good faith with what is provided, and so does our attorney and our county administrator. So I do appreciate your efforts in trying to navigate this, and I think that's my point.
So we actually measured the roads, you know, after the ordinance when the signs were going up. They were measuring the roads as they put the signs up. Can you flip to the next?
Yes, sir.
Or the one that shows the short, yeah, right there.
Right.
That's the, I've seen some pictures where the house on the right at the intersection has a bunch of cars on the street, and then if there's a car that parks opposite those cars, it makes the road too narrow.
Correct.
But that's why the ordinance says we need to be staggered.
Yeah, we appreciate that change, and I think it'll work well.
So the one thing I would ask too is, we're going to pass this. Can you reach out to the community, make sure they're aware of what the ordinance says, what the requirement is for the staggered parking, just so that we've got good communication going and they're made aware of the situation?
Okay.
And not the HOA.
Yeah, not just through the HOA,
Not through the
unfortunately.
HOA.
Every individual.
Correct.
Every individual
Homeowner.
resident homeowner.
Yes,
Yeah.
they've been informed.
And we did that when we were putting up the sign, so we'll contact
Very
everybody
good.
again.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We have to commend that neighborhood. They really rallied together and came out and
Absolutely.
made their voices heard.
But our suggestion or recommendation is not based on public support or disapproval. It's just based on
Right.
the actual measure.
You actually measured it.
Yes,
Yeah.
An engineered best,
correct.
right.
Yeah. I move to rescind ordinance 2021-39 restricting on-street parking on Southwoods Estates side streets and authorize the Department of Public Works and Transportation to remove associated signs.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and that is all for Department of Public Works and Transportation today. Next is from the County Administrator's Office, and that is to ask you to approve the employment contract for the Animal Shelter Division Manager. And I would note that Ms. Teresa Marlowe, who we're going to hire for that position, if you approve the contract, is here. So I'd ask her to come up, and maybe Mr. Walker could introduce her. Not trying to put you on the spot, but since you're here, thought.
We got questions.
There we go.
And prior to that, just so there's no anticipation, I move to approve the employment contract for the Animal Shelter Division Manager as presented and authorize the Commissioner President to sign the related documents.
Second.
Discussion? Thank you for taking the job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really, we look forward to it. We worked many years to get this done for our county, and the people in the county will have a great opportunity to go and adopt animals locally versus all the way over. They took you over to the old animal shelter that we had been using jointly for 3 counties now, and we finally decided to do our own, which is going to be a tremendous asset to our community. And we look forward to your guidance and smoothly operating things and getting things going for us. Hopefully myself will be coming over to adopt. We need to get a dog soon. So soon we get going, we'll probably come over and get one from you. Mr. Walker, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take your thunder there.
I mean, I'm very excited that we've got somebody to take the position. She's very qualified. She's full of energy. She comes from a similar background to me from a municipal world, and I know the challenges that she's gone through, and I look forward to her performance here. So she's going to do a great job for us. She's going to do wonderful.
Great.
How does it feel to be building something from the ground up?
It's exciting.
All right. That's good.
Especially a new shelter. Looks like it's being state-of-the-art build, and
Yes.
will be very nice. We're looking forward to it. Any questions, Commissioners?
I was an advocate for a really big office for the manager with windows and but I just couldn't get it past Commissioner Hewitt. Since he's not here, I can say that.
She probably has a dog running through her. Come on.
Just kidding around. That's it. Thank you for joining the team.
I will say one thing. Several years ago, when I was on the Board of Appeals, we had a planning commission meeting up in Prince George's County. And the major problem they had in their animal shelter at the time was they had too many roosters. And the question came about, what do we do with these roosters? Nobody adopts a rooster. And I said, how do you get so many roosters? And they had passed an ordinance that allowed the people in Prince George's County to put up these little hen houses, and raise chickens and eggs and whatever. But when they went to buy these little pellets, they couldn't tell if they were roosters or hens, and they had too many roosters all of a sudden. They were taking them to the animal shelter and turning them in. So I raised my hand, being the little country boy I am. I said, well, we have an Amish and Mennonite community that would love to have all your roosters.
They've taken care of a few for me.
And they said, what are you going to do with those? He said, they'll probably eat them. So if you have those problems, let us know, and we'll help you with our local community to get rid of such animals as that. So.
Absolutely.
So you'll be dealing with cows and probably horses. Who knows what you're going to get in the country environment. But thank you very much for deciding to come to us, and we look forward to you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Anything else, Commissioners? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Walker.
You had a first and a second, Commissioner?
Nope, we got a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's all for the County Administrator.
Oh, my goodness. We're moving right along here. All right. Are we going to go right into legislative?
Yes, there would be legislation. We do have, I'm sorry, I'm an hour ahead. Yes, Office of the County Attorney. for legislative updates.
This could make up the next hour.
Well, he's got a lot on his plate today, so we'll let him go early.
Get y'all out by 11:30.
Keep it short, though, okay? All right.
Actually, today we do have a much shorter update than we've had in recent weeks.
Very good.
We're at that point in the session, 35 days to go, where not much news being introduced, nothing much has crossed over yet. So it's a little bit of lull. Today is just a few updates on some other bills, more FYIs. We should be quick through this one. First up is the update on county commissioner bills. We finished the last two hearings we had outstanding on HB 516, which is the update to the Human Relations Commission, and HB 523, which is a change to the definition of newspaper in general circulation for St. Mary's County. Gave testimony on both of those last Tuesday afternoon. Delegate Morgan ably testified on behalf of the delegation. No questions received on HB 516. That one should be smooth sailing. It did have more spirited debate on HB 523, and I think the rumors that that one is dead on arrival were well-founded, for better or for worse. As a friend of mine who does work with the Virginia House of Delegates said, just because it's a smart bill doesn't mean it's going to be a bill that passes.
I will say that Delegate Morgan gave a great presentation at that hearing on 523. And obviously the attackers were APG, who, has 27 news outlets. And I would love to see, we get our 3 pages of news in the local paper, and you open it up and there's 40 pages of advertisements and legal ads. And the argument is, well, we're not in this thing just to make money. We're a well-founded blah, blah, blah newspaper. And then simultaneously, the other attack came from a writers guild, I believe. It might not have been Writers Guild, it was the second person, a woman who was testifying.
Trade association.
Trade association, we're not in this thing for money, but when you look at the size of the enterprise each week and it's getting thicker and thicker, and you see how much news is getting thinner and thinner, I thought, obviously, though there was some questions were asked, I thought they were very strong for our request. But as you said, not knowing what the power is of APG and their pretense of we're not in this thing for money, and it's our heart and soul that cares about St. Mary's County. I'm sorry that dog didn't hunt to me when I listened to that testimony, but thank you for Delegate Morgan's testimony.
Yeah, I would agree, absolutely, wholeheartedly.
Okay. Other update on bills is we do finally have one moving out of committee, which is HB 527, requiring polygraph examinations for EMT workers. That has received a favorable report from its committee and ought to be going to second reading sometime soon. We received no requests for letters of support or opposition in the past week. The only thing then is just to highlight legislation that is updated that we were previously tracking and other things that have come up. First item on that legislation of interest is SB 651, HB 960. We're past the hearing dates on both these bills, but something I noticed just to bring to our attention, this bill would kind of repeal and replace an Attorney General's opinion from October 2020 that said that forest conservation, forest mitigation banking, which previously up till then, developers could set aside existing forest land under a preservation easement would work. Attorney General put a stop to that practice in 2020 when they said new definition is that it can only be new plantings that you can bank for future mitigation efforts. Last year there was legislation that grandfathered in some of the existing preservation easements. This legislation, if it goes anywhere, would get rid of the grandfathering and just any qualified preservation easements, even on existing growth, would be fine under the forest mitigation. So that's just something we're going to monitor for its effect on the county. Next one after that is SB 760. This is one I pulled that could be of particular interest to St. Mary's County, and I think we're going to be taking the posture to see how the hearing this afternoon goes and whether or not more involvement is appropriate or merited. What this would do is qualify the property tax exemption that religious and educational and other nonprofit institutions get on their real property, saying that if that qualifying organization leases to any third party, they will lose the property tax exemption that they have on the property. And what I thought about when I saw that is any third party, as that's written, would also obviate any lease from an original nonprofit to another nonprofit group. And Off the top of my head, I can think of at least 2 examples where that might apply here in St. Mary's County. Mother Catherine Academy up in Helen, and the Chesterton Academy is also attempting to negotiate a lease of the St. Immaculate Conception Parish Hall in Mechanicsville. Under the very, very broad language, I don't think, even though they would both be exempt in their own right, that they would qualify, that the property would continue to qualify as tax exempt, which would, of course, probably be some motivation for the Archdiocese of Washington and any other similar situated organization to not go forward with those. Like I said, I think the plan on this one is to see how the hearing goes. It doesn't have any cross-file. It only has one sponsor. I think the odds are pretty good this bill has no juice. But if it changes and if it does look like it become a problem to institutions we have in the county, we'll bring an update at that time. But that was just to put on the radar.
When they say lease to a third party, does this mean lease for 100% utilization for the
And
year?
there's another good question.
Yeah, I mean, how much is it leased to? Is it leased for, if I go there and lease it for 3 hours for something?
For instance, a
That's
church
commercial?
performs a wedding and they rent out their fellowship hall. Is that something that would negate their property tax?
Right, and the language on the bill right now just says any lease. And I can kind of see where they're getting here. They don't want, nonprofit organizations to fly under the cover, or for-profit organizations to fly under the cover of a nonprofit. But it's very, very broad, and I think these questions are one of the reasons this bill doesn't seem to have too much traction.
Yeah.
Maybe we had a lot of debate on this one.
Yeah, I could see
Because
this. Yes, this could hit any nonprofit, like the American Legion. We rent out the hall for a birthday party. Is that now considered a commercial use of it? I don't know.
Hey, you get into a very, very delicate area. I mean,
no doubt.
we're dealing with it right now where SDAT locally is making arbitrary decisions on farmers.
Sure.
And taxing
Certain
a
parts
barn.
of a farm.
Right.
Well, they're just taxing a certain part of it at that time, and
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on in the state with that. That's crazy.
So, this, I can see why this is such a
So
slippery
you say this has very little meat to it, you think?
So right now, it's, I think, 3 whole lines of text. It's one sponsor in the Senate, a hearing this afternoon, no activity or movement in the House, no rumors.
No one else is signing
It's
up.
hard to see.
No one else is signing up for it. Okay.
So, like I said, watch the testimony probably tonight or whenever they post it, see if there's more to it, and we can act accordingly. Go
Got
into a
Senate
war
hearing
posture
tomorrow
if
afternoon.
necessary.
Right? Okay. Thank you.
The next one, SB 956 HB 1409. This is another update. This bill is very similar to the previously talked about HB 267, SB 298, which would have made it a criminal offense to make threats against public health officials working for county and state government. This bill would expand those protections to not only health officers, but election administrators and other public employees responsible for inspecting and enforcing housing and building codes. The original bill that applies just to health officials is currently stalled out in hearings. It went through them, but no movement since. This bill does not even have hearing dates yet. Again, going to be one just to watch and monitor, but just to put on the county commissioner's radar for right now.
Do they define what threats is in that bill?
I'm not familiar enough with the bill right now to answer that conclusively. I can have that email back to you at the moment.
Yeah, just shoot me an email
At
on
it.
it. There's quite a few bills up there that tread very, very, well, I don't agree with threatening somebody. There's a difference between a threat on somebody's life or, a threat to come protest at their office. Annapolis has gone down the wayward road of trying to restrict the First Amendment with a few of their bills, at least in my humble opinion. So that's why I'm very interested in that.
And I will, I have the bill and the fiscal and policy note. I will look through that and send a quick email off the moment I get back upstairs.
Yeah, even a phone call would suffice. You don't even have to, that's fine.
Next one, HB 1429, collection and publication of criminal case and prosecutorial information. This one's got a little bit more meat, a little bit more movement to it than others. What it would basically require is every state's attorney office in the state to start collecting and then disseminating to the Maryland Commission on Criminal Sentencing about 12 different points of demographic data and facts related to any convictions, sentencing, et cetera. And information's always good, but the problem and why MACO came out in opposition to this bill is that it's going to be a great administrative burden on our state's attorney's offices statewide if it's passed, and would almost certainly necessitate the hiring of new staff and updating systems to account for all this administrative burden it's adding. Hearing was last week in the Senate. It has not progressed to a hearing in the House yet. And we can bring it back to the county commissioner's attention at the time it does get a House hearing date, if it does, or...
Yeah, could you?
Yeah.
We will do that.
Yeah.
Then, next is an update on HB 1022. This is the bill sponsored by Delegate Crosby that would direct the State Highway Administration to fully fund the Great Mills road improvements by 2025.
Are we on memo 2?
Yes, we are. Skipping over the very end of memo 1, just to save that for the very, very end. We had previously talked about this, I believe, 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, and the decision then was to hold off until the fiscal and policy note came out and see what it says. Fiscal policy note did come out. It does state that there's a significant cost that would have to be associated with this, and they do raise questions about the ability to meet this project's deadlines by 2025. It does also note that the bill's not going to increase any funding to State Highway Administration. It's not going to pull from anywhere else. It's just going to direct the State Highway Administration to use its own funds, which are already allocated to other projects, to meet this funding obligation. They did not suggest or say where those funds would come from, but the fiscal and policy note did point out about 7 or 8 other projects here in St. Mary's County that have funding available right now and do have funds allocated to them.
So robbing Peter to pay Paul in order to get this intersection done. So the rest of the county suffers for this intersection.
Allocating money from somewhere. I mean, it's no guarantee that State Highway Administration would take that money from another project in St. Mary's County. I think we can all speculate internally about what might seem common sense or what State Highway Administration might choose to do if it's presented with this mandate, but the money's certainly going to have to come from some other project somewhere to meet this one.
Yeah, I think just conversationally, I have to agree with Commissioner Morgan on a very, very valid point that he's made, I don't know how many different times. But if anybody out there has forgotten, there is a north end of St. Mary's County that's past Hollywood Road, and I would even say past St. Andrew's Church. Okay, all you guys.
Charles County's going to take it over.
You can get out of this conversation, all right? Down. But it's there's so many projects, so many improvements that need to be done in the north end of the county, but yet always the focus and the divesting of a significant amount of revenue from the county and the state is pushed into the southern end of the county. Now, I get the infrastructure part because we've had this conversation, but I mean, I can't support if this bill says that we're going to take from other projects in the county to push to this, and if that's what it says, I'm not going to support that.
So the bill does not directly say it has to come from elsewhere in St. Mary's County. Okay. It just says it has to come from somewhere. We don't know. It could come from other projects in St. Mary's County.
Right, but they're not going to take it from Prince George's, Baltimore City, Baltimore County.
Well, you know why this is being done, don't you?
Yeah, of course I know. Yeah.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Yeah.
So that hearing is tomorrow. We'll watch and see if it goes anywhere in the Senate. The last update is we've been talking about this one since the very beginning, I think, the very first legislative update, the cybersecurity packages that are coming through the House and Senate. We do finally have amendment language from MACO, and MACO has changed their position on these to support with amendments. And they, in talking with Senator Hester, who's the sponsor of most of this legislation over in the Senate, believe they are going to get the accommodations suitable to local government. Talked about this with Director Kelly at IT. He would agree to support this legislation with the amendments being proffered by MACO. Mm-hmm. And those amendments do take out most of the more onerous burdens, such as mandating who and where and when we would have to engage or procure training for IT from and other services, and still respects local autonomy and making resources available to locals to meet the challenges of cybersecurity in the coming years.
I'll say that this has been widely debated at MACO, and the way it started out was extremely onerous and burdensome to not only the state but to the counties. But I think the amendments have made it fairly, I wouldn't say benign, but I think it's made it more favorable to us to recognize, particularly with the incidents going on over in Ukraine and Russia now with massive cybersecurity hacking going on, on a daily, hourly, minute-by-minute basis, that we have to do things here to protect our own infrastructure and stuff along the way. And I think that MACO has worked to get us to a point that is reasonable and not overly burdensome, that the state's going to come up with what they believe to be the cybersecurity be-all to end-all, shove it down on all the counties and say, you're going to do this, and many counties are ill-prepared to take this on at the present time. So the amendments, I believe, are favorable for a statewide process and grouping. If that, Mr. Kelly, is that a fair statement?
And I'll add on to what Commissioner Morgan's saying. This isn't just a state Maryland issue. This is being debated nationally. This is a huge thing. I'm on the National Association of Counties IT Standing Committee, and every meeting it's talking about cybersecurity. And for the local governments that aren't prepared, you better get prepared quick, because this issue isn't going away. It's only going to get worse. So it's definitely an important topic for now and in the near future.
I like the shameless plug, by the way.
I know, you got to get it
perfect.
when you can. But it's true. I mean, it's true. It's the number one issue that's being talked about.
It's the world we live in now. Yeah, it is.
So what we did, rather than do about 10 different letters of support for each Senate bill and each House bill, is just write one kind of package bill with all the bills on it, one for the House, one for the Senate. And we could field motions to approve the letter of support by bill, but that's how we're prepared to get the actual letter of support out this time.
Okay, do I have a motion one?
So what, you want these two memos? Is that what you're looking for, or do you need individual motions?
So we wrote it out that individual motions to support each individual.
We got motion 1, 2,
Can we
and 3.
do it all at once?
Well, I got to read each one individually. It addresses different bills.
Yeah, okay, I got this. All right.
You got it?
Yeah, so I make a motion to approve, I move to support, strike that. So these all have MACO amendments, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I move to support with MACO amendments, Senate Bill 107, Senate Bill 754, Senate Bill 780, Senate Bill 811, Senate Bill 812, House Bill 5, House Bill 1202, House Bill 1205, House Bill 1346, and authorize the Commissioner President to sign the related documents.
I think that's everything.
Are you reading off the purple sheet? Where do you get all those bills from? Do we get all the right ones there?
Yes, we did.
Okay, good
I
enough.
was reading right off the.
No, I was reading off here.
Oh, yeah, I just consolidated.
Okay, we have a first. Do we get a second?
Second.
Second. We have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. You may continue, sir.
Last topic, which similar to how last week there was a kind of 30,000-foot view of the climate legislation that is making its way through. That's been a topic of focus and debate up in Annapolis. This week, I had the time and chose to put a very basic summary of the various cannabis reform legislation that's making its way through, only related to the perhaps coming legalization of recreational cannabis for adults. Nothing to do with existing regulations or how they intend to implement this. But just because there has been some confusion of exactly what mechanisms have been debated to bring this about, what is going to be involved, just to give the county commissioners in this table a survey of the various bills out there. Of course, this all began with HB 1, which would have been a ballot measure to put a constitutional amendment legalizing cannabis for adult users. At one point, it looked like that, though that had passed, that the Senate was going to prefer to do this by legislation and not do it by a referendum instead. Now it seems we are back into the stance where we are expecting to do this by constitutional referendum in November, with, if passed at that time, regulations governing the use will come sometime expected in the next year. But they're at least going to kick the can down the road to a vote in the fall, it seems. And if this is on a similar pace as the vote to legalize medical cannabis back in 2015, I believe legalization occurred in 2015. It wasn't until 2017 that the first grower and dispensation licenses were distributed. So they took their time drafting these regulations. Don't know what clock or what schedule they would move on for recreational cannabis, but there's at least going to be some time to, once the vote comes, catch up and figure out what does legalization actually mean? What is it actually going to look like in Maryland? And how much discretion are individual counties going to have when it comes to these ordinances and practices?
Are they sort of mirroring the Washington, D.C., Virginia bills?
Who knows?
Look close to it.
Because the bills themselves are more or less fairly simple.
Oh, yeah,
Almost
yeah.
all of them say that, an adult over the age 21 years or older will have the right to use recreational cannabis. The
So
devil
many
in all
ounces
this
in her
is-
possession and 2 or 3 plants and whatever. Yeah.
Right.
So
What
for
if-
anyone who's watching, the memo you gave us has 4-page chart of different bills dealing with cannabis here.
Correct.
That's a lot. This is,
I would say that you can expect at the local level, there'll probably be zero amount of discretion because we all know what's going to happen as soon as recreational. The biggest conversation is going to be that 33% tax that they're going to throw on it, just like all the other states. So and the argument's going to be for us to see how much of that's actually going to come back down to the county, which in most cases probably nothing. The state will just keep it. But either way, I think that's going to be the biggest thing when they move to the full legalization versus the decriminalization. That's at least my crystal ball.
So right now you think it's going to be probably go on referendum?
That's what it looks like right
Headed for-
now. There was commentary if commissioners have 49 minutes of their life, they don't mind not getting back. Mako has did a wonderful podcast on Friday through
Right,
Conduit
right.
Street that goes into it. That and those who are in the know suggest that it does look like this is going to go by referendum now.
Okay.
And the polling on that referendum, what's been done suggests they're about 60% of the public in Maryland in favor of the measure if it goes to the ballot.
Yeah, it's going to pass. There's no doubt.
But I'm happy to field any questions about any particulars of this legislation. This was more just again, put on the radar, let the commissioners know what may be coming.
Any other questions, Commissioners? Anybody?
A couple of things. I want to thank you for putting that together for us.
Yes.
It's going to be very helpful because, it's always a moving target when it comes to cannabis anywhere within the state. Second is that the Climate 2022 bill is all over the place, too. I don't know where that's going to end up. Senator Pinsky made a couple of concessions the other day. One was towards, if you remember, we wrote a letter of opposition last week for support or not having all new construction has to be green energy because we have a significant natural gas, electrical, and propane market down here that does serve the community well. And I believe that he did take the amendment and got rid of the chunk that sat there and said you must have just plain old green energy to make this happen. Next, tomorrow I'll be up in Annapolis testifying on behalf of Highway User Revenue. Commissioner Guy will be testifying Thursday to the House on Highway User Revenue. And I think this bill has broad bipartisan support up there to move and get more of our highway revenue taxes brought back to St. Mary's County for the benefit of our citizens and fixing our roads. So we're not piling, a lot of our taxpayer dollars and fixing the roads when the state is absconding the money and keeping it up the road for their own uses. So that's coming up too.
question about that with the highway user revenue. Is that something, if assuming it passes, would take effect for the budget we're building now?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't know that either. I don't know. Hopefully the bill will pass.
Yeah.
What was it reduced from 1.2 million down to 300,000 in 2007, 2008?
Yeah.
Around 7.9 million in 2009.
Yeah. Down to 300,000, wasn't it?
And next year, now we're about 1.8 million.
Yeah. So we went from 7-8 million down to 300,000 overnight. And so we've been using our own funds to repair highways and even had to borrow money to do that. Let people know what we've lost. And the governor's tried to get some back. We've got over a little over $1 million now. But hopefully this bill, if it passes and it's got strong support, will get us hopefully up to where we left off.
And I think you bring up a very important point, because let's not forget that the asphalt overlays and things like that are based on petroleum production, and oil was at 125 a barrel this morning. And when we went into the bidding process, the price of oil was about $75 or $80 a barrel. So you can see the mathematics of basically you're going up by 50% or more on the price of oil and natural gas just in the last month or so. You're seeing at the pumps, you're feeling it at the pumps, but simultaneously as we build our budget, let's not forget, buses have to run, roads have to be repaired, public works and maintenance has to subscribe to. So all those costs are now changing. This tables some of our decision-making process because things have got to keep going and maintaining. But when we started this budget process, had no idea the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, the movement to not pump oil and that. I mean, it's crazy that we're not pumping our own oil and natural gas that are going to go to Venezuela and Iran, who have basically been despots for years, and we're going to ask them to give us the oil to help us out because we want to build our own, and then just help fund the war from a different angle. So it's crazy. That's all I can say. It's crazy. So with that, I'm done.
Of course, I saw one pump this morning. It was $4.49 a gallon. That was about a 40% increase from just 2 days ago, 40 cents more.
So we're going to be fighting tomorrow for your highway use or revenue to come back. We might get an extra million, but we're still going to be far short of the $7.8 million we had, just after I started this job.
Right. Okay.
Does anybody find it ironic that we were talking about legalization of cannabis and all the gas prices are pretty high?
With what?
Well, it's all part of.
I'm sorry, I just said.
Letting people know.
I thought about that one for a while.
Letting people know.
I missed it.
Anything else, Mr. House?
Nothing further to bring to the commission.
Good, John. Thank you very much. And say hello to your mom and dad for me.
Will do.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Everything else, Mr. County Administrator?
No, sir. Now it is Commissioner time.
Uh-oh, in the Commissioner time. Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll start with Commissioner Morgan today.
Thank you, Mr. President. Few things on the list. First of all, I want to express our condolences to Danny Davis and his family up at the Hollywood Volunteer Fire Department. He passed a week or so ago, a very sad event. We had a lot of discussion about it when they had a great takeout dinner on Saturday up there. I have never seen them fill the plates so full for takeaway, but I will sit there and say it did make 2 meals for me, so thank you. On Sunday, we were able to go up to 7th District Optimist. They had a little reception, thanking all the people who've been supporting them over the year. They're getting ready up there for Maryland Day, a big thing there. I'm happy to report that the North County Farmers Market is officially finished. The keys have been turned over to the county. There'll be a ribbon cutting upcoming soon. So as we work collectively on our agriculture, tourism, we now have a farmer's market on the north end. It's going to be open. We have the Amish slaughterhouse working, and we're moving forward with the rec. So I think all those things are coming together to serve our agricultural community in a really, really big way. Lastly, it's March Madness, and it's starting. And if you've been watching any of the games, last night, I thought 2 games were over with 3 seconds to go, and guess what? They weren't. Last-minute buzzer beaters. It was just incredible to watch, and I'm sure that, if you're a junkie like me, you're going to be like, why are you up till 2 in the morning, Todd? Because you're watching basketball. They say, are you crazy? I'll sit there and say yes, but this is just a fun time of the year, so cheer your team on next Sunday, 6 o'clock. March Madness, we'll figure out who's going where, and I'm going to Buffalo to watch them games. So thank you. With that, have a good day.
Commissioner O'Connor.
Well, I don't know how I follow that one up. That was pretty exciting. All right, March Madness. So the 7th District Optimist was amazing. It's always good to see the groups down there and everything that they do for the community. They had a playground out there. I was able to bring my son, and my wife came. So it was a nice afternoon. A little windy, but it was beautiful out. Prior to that, if anybody was not aware, you can go down every Friday between 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. 7th District Optimist, and you can get a drive-through dinner. Yeah, they have shrimp, they have fries, a couple, there was just so much food. It was great. Seafood dinner. I think it was like $17, goes to a great cause. So that, if you're hungry on Friday, go on down, get some food. They have a turkey shoot coming up this Sunday, which will be the last one. So always out in the community. Actually, I don't know how they find time to do so much what they're doing, and it's probably because they're hanging out with Commissioner Guy being retired. So I think that's what it might be. I'm glad about the North End Farmers Market. It's been a long time coming. Commissioner Morgan worked diligently on this one. Let me tell you, credit has to go where credit is due. And while he kept the commissioners in the loop, he worked extremely hard with the Tri-County Council, SMATIC, everybody to keep this project going. And then when it got a little crazy with residents complaining about it, he threw it to me and said he's going to head back down to the south end of the county. So we did that, but we got it back together, and I think everybody's very happy with the project that's there, and I'm looking forward to the ribbon cutting ceremony. Field of Chopticon is amazingly almost done. I'd say I went out there. I left early in the morning one day earlier this week, and they were at the 50-yard line, and I came back in a few hours, and literally the field was like right straight across. I said, geez, they move pretty fast. So I can't wait to see it done. I can't wait to see the first game played there. I think it's going to be interesting. I wonder if they're going to do some like coordinated thing with all three fields, with the high schools, with a game or something. We'll find out. Got some requests about the YMCA in the north end of the county. So we're at stage one, and I understand the frustrations. I was an advocate of trying to find it in a centralized location. Unfortunately, that's just not how it shook out with the plans, the YMCA. But what I can tell you is, no, the funding is not necessarily available to throw another $20+ million in the budget, for a few years out to do this. It's just unrealistic. It's not practical. We need to get the first one in, done, up, running, going from there, and then we can talk about other facilities in the north end of the county. Right now we have to take a very measured approach. There are some things that are changing that is going to drive the price of goods through the roof. Commissioner Morgan lent to that conversation during his commissioner time. For the Davis family, my condolences. Danny was quite the character. He was always very straightforward and direct, and he quite frankly didn't care if you hurt your feelings when he said something. And when it comes to the fire service, I can see absolutely where that's necessary. I work closely with him keeping the fire rescue program at the high school up and running. He was a huge driving force on that with the College of Southern Maryland, with our paramedic program, you name it when it comes to emergency services. And I mean, the guy, just amazing. And last but not least, it is International Women's Day. And it's very profound, recognizing all of our staff here in the county that work diligently, that have constantly have to give that extra percentage. I recognize, that the playing field is not necessarily level. And, I look at that with, my mother-in-law, who's a teacher, my mother, who was a bus driver, my sister, a teacher working in mental health, my wife, who has worked 22 years and, had many firsts in her career as being the first female canine handler, being the first woman dive team member, and understanding that in fields that are heavily dominated by males, that it's there is a constant effort that needs to be recognized of always having to run a little bit faster, work that extra bit harder, and in order to try and find that level playing field that really needs to come back down. And it's not everywhere, but it does exist, and I know that firsthand. So I thank every single woman that's working in county government, that's out there, that's just fighting and being a trendsetter for the next generation. So thank you.
Mr. Colvin. Very good, thank you. This morning, we do this every year, we approved the LOSAP certifications. So LOSAP, for anyone who's not familiar, it's the Length of Service Awards program that our volunteer fire and rescue personnel, they receive points every year if they volunteer enough hours and are involved enough. There's a lot of different criteria for it. What it says to me this year it's a pretty thick packet, a lot of names. We hear a lot about how volunteerism is dying, volunteerism is struggling in our county, and this packet shows that there is a lot of volunteerism still going on. These are people who are dedicating incredible amounts of time to save and protect their community and help out, and it's just absolutely incredible, and it's just a good thing to do, a good thing to see. So thank you to all the volunteers who have received these LoSAP points, and thank you for all that you do. Related to that, the 2nd District Volunteer Fire Department and Rescue Squad, their building is complete. They are in the process of moving into this building. There's people who said that it would not get built, and now they have an incredible building that is positioning them well for the future. So just congratulations to all the members down there, all the people who have made that possible. Thank you to all the community partners that helped make that building possible. Great work there. We touched on chickens earlier this morning. Commissioner President
You might have
Guy.
touched on chickens.
Commissioner President Guy talked a little bit about roosters. So many people know that I have a small flock of chickens that I keep. We found out over the weekend about the highly pathogenic avian influenza, the HPAI, is in Maryland. It came from Delaware. There's one case over on the Eastern Shore. It's something that's being monitored. There's a lot of people who keep chickens. If you have chickens, now is the time to ensure that you have good biosecurity for your flock. Make sure that you're not transmitting this highly infectious disease. It can be transmitted a lot of different ways, but clean out your waterers, your feeders, just keep an eye on your flock and make sure that this doesn't spread, because if it does spread, your flock gets put down, and that would be really unfortunate. Finally, this afternoon, we have a budget work session. We've had some really good budget work sessions so far. Our budget is being set up very well that we can provide some tax relief. We can reduce our income taxes. We can fully fund the school's negotiated agreement and provide the raises that are needed. We're in a really good position, and I look forward to this afternoon's budget work session as we keep building this incrementally, and we're getting to where we need to get. So thank you all. Have a great week.
Okay, Commissioner President Guy's turn here. I'd like to capitalize on our budget as we're going through here. Last week, we did a great job of quickly passing the budget for the schools. Now, I got to admit right now, we're in a groundswell of good income right now. Our revenue is good. And the great thing about it is, for those of you who don't understand about this blueprint for Maryland's future, it was all started about 2018 with the Kirwan Commission that was studying the best educational formula for the state of Maryland, and it ended up being passed into law in 2021, this blueprint for education. Now, many counties ignored, they just did the maintenance of effort. For those who understand that, every year we get a maintenance of effort that we have to pay unless we can prove we just cannot come up with the revenue. This year we not get maintenance of effort, we did almost $5 million over that, which gave all the teachers a pay raise. I am proud of the Commissioners of St. Mary's County. For the last 8 budget sessions, we have always approved the teacher pays. We've always given it to them. There may have been some debate about how we did this, but they've always gotten their raises. And the best thing about it, and we got some information last week, if you want to look at this major impact to jurisdictions for this maintenance of effort and the blueprint, there's only 10 counties in the whole state of Maryland. There's 24 jurisdictions, 23 counties, the city of Baltimore. And the thing of it is, 10 of these, no impact to us. We have met the goal for this blueprint for education for Maryland and maintain it. That's what we're doing right. We're maintaining it. We have done a great job in St. Mary's County politics in keeping this going. And I'm proud of our commissioners. I'm proud that I was part of the leadership into this, and for the last 8 budget sessions, we have made this impact happen. There are some, like the city of Baltimore, that's behind by $122 million. Where they're going to find that money, I don't know. But they've just ignored any increase in their budget and kept the maintenance of effort very low, and unfortunately, they're going to have to be very heavily impacted. There's numerous counties in the same ballpark. They're $50 and $60 million behind. And I want to thank our commissioners, so I'm sitting here right now, as well as the past commissioners for the last 8 budget sessions, that we have met our educational goals. I think it's very important for St. Mary's County to have a good sound public education. This is good for everybody. It's even good for people like me. They got to have people on the payroll to pay the Social Security so that my retirement in the future is good. Thank you very much. Now we need to move into a closed session.
I think we have is that still on the agenda?
Well, we actually have a proclamation for
That's
an
at
employee that
11:15.
passed, but that's at 11. But we could do the closed session now if commissioners.
Yeah, let's do that.
We just go ahead and do that now.
Oh,
Okay, so we go into closed session?
Wait, is there a person not here to receive it?
Yeah, Commissioners, the family of Mr. Leroy Williams, it's a memorial proclamation, their family is scheduled to arrive at 11 o'clock today.
So we could do our closed session now and still meet on time for our.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Our
Yes, sir.
sermon. I think that would be my
And the presentation
suggestion.
will take place in the lobby. Yes, sir.
All right, let's
Thank
see.
you.
Make a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel, appointments of boards, committees, and commission.
Second.
Have a first, second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.